Hey YouTubers, Mike Borders with the Mike Borders channel. Thank you for watching. If you're joining us from the previous video where we hooked the scanner up to the truck, we had a check engine light. And in that video it shows you the actual process of hooking the scanner up and going through the entire scanner and finding that code. We have a P0300 as well as a P0304. It's a detected misfire in the engine. And in this video we're going to run you through the steps on how to replace the actual ignition coil. Let's get started. Here it is, 2008 Chevy Colorado inline 5. Let's go ahead and pop the hood and gain access to the engine. Safety first always. We are going to be working with electrical connection points. Grab your 10mm ratchet and socket and remove the negative terminal from the battery. Set that aside. Next, grab a flathead screwdriver. We need to loosen up the flathead screw to this clamp as well as this clamp. We are going to remove this entire hose. On to the next one. After removing the hose, grab that same 10mm socket, and down here you have one 10mm screw and a second one right there. Let's go ahead and remove those. There's the screw. Set that aside in a safe location where it does not drop back into the engine and get lost forever. Both screws are removed. This side, as you can see, is loose. However, grab that flathead screwdriver. On the back side, you have an additional clamp that secures this case to a hose. Let's loosen this up. After you get that clamp loosened up, you can see it moves freely. And now this entire case, you want to carefully shift it to the left. And be careful, you don't want to harm this hose as you remove this. And again, do this very carefully. Once we break this case free, there's an additional hose on the back side here that we need to remove. So again, just be careful. Shift this to the side, and down below, there's that hose right there. Let's go ahead and remove this hose. There we go. That hose is free. From here, this whole case can come off, and again, set that aside in a safe location. We now have access to all 5 of the ignition coils. Coil 1 is the closest to the actual crank. Ours is an inline 5 3.7 liter. Yours could be different. Verify your coil placement and spark plug firing order prior to removing anything. So again, with the inline 5 3.7, this is coil number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And in our case, coil number 4 is giving us the detected misfire. At the front of the engine now, this part can be pretty tricky and confusing. In ours, with the 3.7 liter, we might have it a little easier than others. As you can see, the finger will go up underneath. There is a tab underneath here. You push up, and as you push up, you apply pressure, and that connection point comes right off. Grab that same 10mm socket, and let's go ahead and remove that bolt. Set that aside, make sure it doesn't fall in the engine. Next, we need to remove the ignition coil, and basically this is just suction cupped into the top of the engine as well as down below on the plug. Carefully apply pressure. You'll hear a little pop, and this ignition coil will come right off. Now's a good time to verify no oil leakage on the actual coil boot. In our case, that's a good thing. That means oil's not seeping into the actual plugs. Let's go and remove the new part from the box. We bought the Duralast brand. Here's the new ignition coil. It's a good time to verify that they look the same. In the event that your new ignition coil looks far different, well, you got the wrong one. Take it back and get the proper one. Insert the new ignition coil in the same hole the old one came out, and you might have to align that screw in that hole. Add a little bit of pressure until that boot connects itself onto the actual plug. From here, let's go ahead and grab that 10mm socket and secure this screw. Now it's time to re-secure this connection point. Push it in until you hear it click. If the ignition coil is installed properly, we just need to put things back together. You want my honest opinion? Cylinder 5, 3, 2, and 1, those coils look like the original coils that came off the assembly line on the engine. Now is a good time to replace the remaining 4 coils. I'm not saying you have to. However, since you've got things apart, it's better to do it now rather than later. So in the event that you actually choose to replace all 5 coils, great idea. If that's the case, I also highly recommend replacing all 5 spark plugs. And in the event that you go that route, cool. Scrolling at the top is a link to a video that will run you through the step-by-step process of removing all 5 coils and all 5 spark plugs, and then properly gapping the plugs and putting everything back together. Definitely check that out. At this point, verify there are no tools resting on this portion of the engine. Let's start putting things back together. And on the bottom side, remember that rubber hose we removed from that part right there. Let's align this and shift that into place. Rubber hose is properly seated on the engine, and now carefully shift this case into place and align it properly with that hose. Just use your hands and carefully position this hose on the plastic case. From here, shift the clamp into place like that, and now let's tighten the clamp. Now on this side, we have those 10mm screws we need to insert and tighten this side of the case down to the engine. Now it's time to go grab that hose. You can insert it carefully and gently on both pieces. Align it properly. And down at the bottom, this little portion of the hose, that will rest over that little tab. And the top hose has a portion of the hose that needs to match with this. Both hose clamps are on and secure. We're done with that portion of the engine. Let's hop to the battery, reconnect the negative terminal, and tighten that 10mm bolt. Alright YouTubers, we're all set. At this point, it is very important to double check that you're not leaving any tools behind in this engine. Don't start that engine with loose tools. That would not be good. And at this point, we have two things that can happen. Our check engine light was on because of that coil. Now the first thing that can happen is once we start the engine computer would communicate with that new coil and that check engine light should go out. However, if it does not, we need to hook up the scanner and clear the check engine light with the scanner. Inside the vehicle now, let's go ahead and start the engine. There's the check engine light down in the lower left-hand corner. And great news, that check engine light has disappeared. I plan on letting this engine run for about 10 to 15 minutes. I want that engine computer to have time to communicate with that part, and over time see if that check engine light comes back on. At this point, the engine has been running for about 15 minutes, and great news, that check engine light down in the lower left-hand corner is still off. That's it. As you can see, a pretty friendly do-it-yourself project. Do us a favor, below the video you will see that thumbs up icon. Click on that, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Definitely go to your settings, turn on your YouTube notification bell. Once you do that, every video that we upload, you will be notified. You will be able to stay up to date with us, and that will be awesome. Thanks again.